Hi everyone, and welcome to this new session. So yesterday we talked about Menghai, and today we're going to go up north, northeast, and we're going to talk about Pasha. So for this session, I will have this cake. Maybe we can have a closer look. So this is the autumn 2021 Pasha. We haven't made any Pasha tea this year. But these cakes, we started making Pasha tea in 2021. So we have the spring, small trees, big trees, and then the autumn version. Then we got a case of Pasha in 2022 of the big trees, but I wasn't really satisfied with the quality. So I didn't release it. I think I still have it unpressed here. Haven't tried it in a while. But these 2021 teas have aged very well. So let's extract a few leaves and start with the brew. So Pasha is a really nice area. It's quite close in taste to Lao Banzang, so it has kind of grown in the shade of Lao Banzang. So let's get one brew of this tea and then we will go on Google Earth. Here we are. Let's zoom out a bit. So this is Asia. Let's orient it north, and then we're going to look for Sichuan. I erased the borders so that we get a better view, and you can see this is Jinghong with the Mekong River. Then if we go west, we have Menghai, and if you go south of Menghai, you have this big mountain range that we've been describing in the past few days. And here you have Gelanghe town, and this is a really nice place if you want to try fish, because there's a big fish pond here and you have restaurants all around the fish pond. So that's quite also a nice day excursion from Menghai that you can take. You can see you have a small road going somewhere there through the mountains and to Gelanghe. And from Gelanghe town, if you look north, you have Nano mountain. This is Nano mountain. Probably we will check it tomorrow. And over there is Pasha. You can see a group of villages there. So we have three villages: Pasha Old Village, Pasha New Village, and Pasha Middle Village. Quite an interesting naming convention. And so the biggest village and the most famous for tea is the Pasha Middle Village, which I think is this one. Old Village is probably that one, and the New Village should be more down. You can see their tea gardens are on the top. If you zoom in, so here you have a thick cover, forest cover, even thicker than Jingmai, I would say. So most of the ancient tea gardens grow in the forest under a thick cover and at high altitude. So here you can see the limit. Their natural tea gardens, their plantations are on the southern side of that hill, most of them, and then you have, I think all that hill is covered in plantation, but I haven't visited actually. I struggled to find pictures because I figured every time I was going there it was raining or something, but fortunately I could save the day with a video that I made quickly before this stream. So the ancient tea gardens, to go there you can walk along some paths there. I think 2 years ago I did an Instagram live stream visiting those gardens, and here you can see the slightly more scattered forest cover, and you can see the little dots inside. It's the tea trees. And so actually I didn't realize they had so many tea gardens. That's still quite a big area. If you look at this there, they probably, now they have some plantations there, but probably in the forest it's also tea garden. I don't know exactly to which extent. I found on the internet that they have 200 hectares. So that would be 3 times less than than Hekai. Yeah, so what we can do today is just take a small journey from Menghai town to Pasha. Okay, so let's go. And in the meanwhile, I will be drinking tea. So this is the outskirts of Menghai, and then you climb up. You have to cross one chain of hills. It gets quite steep there. The road is in pretty good condition, but it can be quite dirty because you have lots of construction going on and maybe some mining or something. Lots of trucks on that road. Wow, this is actually a very intense tea, and this is the autumn version. I had forgotten how intense it was. It really coats your mouth quite well from the first brew, so that's quite impressive for an autumn tea. As far as fragrance goes in this tea, nothing really special. Okay, so we're still climbing uphill, going through some houses. You can see that the houses are pretty decent there because it's a big tea producing area. You have tea everywhere south of Menghai, but not necessarily the gushu, the ancient garden trees. So probably those people are also in the tea industry. If you see greenhouses, it means they have a tea factory. Oh, and here sometimes when I'm by the side of the road like this, let me just put it back a bit. You can see here, you can just check the soil. The roadsides are a good way, and here you can see that you cannot see the bedrock, despite it being maybe, I don't know, 8 meters deep. You cannot see the bedrock. You can see a layer of what looks like organic matter in the middle. Now the top of the soil is darker than the bottom. This is normal because organic matter accumulates and tends to get diluted as it goes down, so you have a darker soil at the top. But it's interesting to see this layer of dark matter, so don't know exactly what it can be. But we don't see the soil, so at least in that place the soil was quite deep, which is common in tropical areas. So depending on the topography, you might be able to see the bedrock in some steep slopes, but most of the time you cannot. And so there you just go down towards Gelanghe. It's a really beautiful place to go to. I like the change in landscape. And you have a big gradient of altitude as you go down there. Okay, so now we are in Gelanghe. So this is also a little flatland. That's why they set up a town there. And so you have lots of small countryside roads. Roads are not always in good condition there, but it's still fine. Generally in Xishuangbanna you have no issues with that. And here we are crossing a Dai village. How do I know it's a Dai village? Because it has that gate like this, which is typical for mainly the Dai and Bulang. I guess it's Buddhist stuff. They also like to have those pointy roofs for their house. So we keep going and climbing up again, and now we are on that smaller road and we're climbing towards Pasha. The mouth coating is really good in that tea. Yeah, that's very enjoyable. I had a lot of ripe Pu-erh today. Oh, and here we are going up. This is Pasha. This must be like the first village of Pasha. And Pasha is honey, it's not dye. It's honey just like Lao Banzang and Nano and Mongsong. So you have a stream of honey people going from north, from Mongsong down to the Burmese border. You can see pretty big greenhouse, so it must be a factory. And this is the entrance to Pasha Zhongzai, Pasha Middle Town. I saw Lunan Mountain while checking Google Earth, but I've never been to that place. Actually, I think I just checked it, and I might go at some point. There are so many villages now in Xishuangbanna. So now you can see you're in a big tea producing village, because all the houses have a tea factory and a greenhouse. So you see the side of that greenhouse just here can probably make 1 ton a year, something like that. It's a pretty small tea factory, maybe a bit more. You could go up to 2 tons. It's all about fulfilling the rush in the spring, so that's usually the limiting factor with the greenhouse. But you can still produce more. You have to use your neighbor's greenhouse. In lots of cases, people are quite over-equipped in terms of factory, because it's cheap comparatively to the price of tea. Okay, and this is the farmers we work with, but he wasn't home. I don't know, his cars were there, but he was somewhere in the fields, I think. We called him, but he was not available on this visit. You can see he has a lot of works, but he rarely uses them. He even has a small tea house, like a tea tasting room, but it was closed. I think actually he came back. Yeah, he came back after we finished the trip. So he has like a traditional Xishuangbanna house, quite the old one. So it's interesting to see they don't always build some new big houses. And so I guess the tea yield is not that high, because that tea is expensive. But when you look at their houses, they don't look like they have as much money as you would find in Laoman or Banzang, you know, at least if you look at the house. Now, sometimes it can be deceptive, because maybe they don't fix their own house, but they will buy houses in the city, for example. And so, yeah, let's just take a look at the tea garden. So this is in Xinyotang area. We didn't go very far, because at that time I think my son was like 1 year old, so he was barely walking by himself. But we explored a bit of the entrance, you could say, of the tea forest. So you'll be able to see the tea trees. Yeah, so you can have a view. So you can see Golanghe is in that valley, just before the last ridge you can see, and it's a pretty big village. And now if you look at the tea trees, they are also quite densely planted, so quite in the same style as Hekai, you could say. And they are really big as in Hekai or Laobanzang. So maybe we could guess the same people planted those trees as in Hekai and Laobanzang. And we're not sure it's the Hani or the Lahu from Hekai. We don't really know who planted it. It could be the Bulang. Again, you see quite a lot of moss on the tea trees. Now, it's quite common for big tea trees to have moss and parasitic plants, but depends on the area. I think it depends on the weather. Now, the leaves are quite big in Pasha. Well, they look kind of similar to some leaves from Laobanzang, but I think it's mainly only the big tree varietal. I don't think they have small leaves in there. And yeah, when you look at the gardens, it looks like a lot of big trees, really. Good proportion of big trees, so it looks quite similar to Hekai. The place we went to was relatively flat, so it was quite easy to access. Well, you can see they still planted a few small trees, just like it's common when you have available space. So it seems quite heterogeneous, you could say, the garden. You have some places with very densely packed tea trees, old tea trees, and they would use the available space to plant more small trees. Wow, that's That's really good for autumn tea. I'm quite impressed by that tea actually. I will just give you a tasting description. And I love to look at these big trees. So depending on the varietal, like in some places it's one big trunk and it grows tall. In that place, you had trunks which like branched out quite early in their growth, and others you can see where you still have a main trunk and then branching. So I think it's down to the pruning technique, because you want to let your tree grow big, but you still want to be able to harvest it. So maybe the idea is you can have a platform in the middle of the tree on which you can climb and then just harvest what you can grab. And so even those big trees, they are regularly pruned, otherwise the shoots will grow too tall and you will be unable to harvest them. Okay, these look to be smaller trees. I think we went there towards the end of summer, because you can see that the weeds were cleaned. So that's usually what you do in the middle of the rainy season. So one question is, do we have problems with landslides in Xishuangbanna? I think it can occur, but it's not that common. At least very rare on the roads, because they did some good engineering for that. You have massive concrete structures to prevent landslides. But yeah, in the region it can be quite common. If you go to Laos, for example, you can get stuck for hours on the road because of landslides. Now in forested areas, landslides are not an issue, because the deep roots will stabilize the soil. And I guess you can have problems with landslides if you have too much tidy, for example, or because of slash and burn agriculture. It's not done anymore in Xishuangbanna, but it was one of the problems with the slash and burn agriculture. Okay, so we're done with this video. I hope you enjoyed it. So yeah, most of the constructions in the village are financed by the tea selling. So basically, if you look at the village, you can kind of guess the income of the farmers, you could say, because in those places the house is the most important thing you have, like most places in the world for most people, I guess. So when they can afford it, they just buy a new house. And often they will construct the whole village at the same time, because it's mainly how much you can borrow from the bank. And if your tea gardens are recognized, if the value of your tea gardens is recognized, you can use it as a deposit, to the bank to take a loan. So once the bank approves the value of those tea gardens, then everyone in the village can start building their houses. So maybe let's just go back on Google Earth a little bit, and then I will just talk, I think, about this tea, because it's quite wonderful. So you can see the area I just showed you. Yeah, it's at the end of that long road, because my friend lives around there, I think, somewhere along that road. So it means that, yeah, we walk there, and where I shot this footage must be probably around here. That's where I could take the picture of the village. And that Xinyotang area is probably the highest altitude, so you can see that on top of that hill keeps going up to 1900 meters. So I checked the altitude. The lowest tea gardens are at 1500, and this top here is at 1900. So it's pretty good tea, and it's 1900 is higher than Laobanzhang actually. So, and this tea has a very similar taste to Laobanzhang tea. So it's not a very famous mountain, also because a lot of that tea is sold to Laobanzhang, or at least even if it's not the Laobanzhang farmers who market it, if you have good tea from that area, you might as well label Lao Banzong on the cake. That way you can put a big price and people will buy. So yeah, Pasha has never been very famous, but now Xiniotang, so the rhinoceros pond, they call it. I don't know if there's actually a pond here, but that has a bit of name. So it's interesting because they just created a new name and now a lot of people are looking for that area. Pasha maybe wasn't sexy enough. Xiniotang sounds good. Yes, sounds a bit like a hipster name, so it can work as well, you know, in China. And that's a process that we'll see mainly in Yiwu, in which they like to, they have the village name, but then they name the gardens, and that way they name the gardens, and that way they can sell this garden at a higher price, and yet the price of the remaining tea will remain the same. So that way they can make more money by detailing each garden. And that's kind of what we try to do in Jingmai, because in Jingmai they don't really care. They have lots of tea gardens, but they don't really create specific names. They have them in Dai. So this is like the Wongbo and Aiban, Mango, Noguwan. These are the Dai names, but when selling tea, they never really use them, which is a shame. So that's why we do it. You can buy tea from single gardens from Jingmai on our website. Okay, so regarding the taste, fragrance really is nothing special. It feels muted. I like this kind of fragrance actually, because it's really hard to describe. It can be a bit leathery, a bit animal, a bit herbaceous, you could say, a bit like hay, but it's hard to really, it's not a really obvious explosive fragrance, you see. And I like this kind of fragrance for Pu-erh tea, but that's why I say it's more a tea for the mouth and the throat. You won't have a lot happening in the nose in that kind of tea. And when you drink it, you get a bit of bitterness. Now this is autumn tea, so it's a toned down version. If you got the spring tea, you'd get a stronger bitterness, but bitterness at the level of Lao Banzong tea. And so it's really similar to Lao Banzong in profile. So if you really want one of the best teas of Menghai, but maybe don't have the budget for real Lao Banzong tea, or don't know a source who will give you real Lao Banzong tea, or don't want to take the risk to buy overpriced Pasha tea, then just buy the Pasha tea, because I would say it's maybe 80% the strength, the intense experience that you can get with a good Lao Banzong tea. You'll get a deep Huigan. It's a tea that really flows down very easily. It feels well layered. It flows down easily down the throat and in the body. And you can see that now I'm more talkative because of the Trachi. And these kind of areas, they are also really good deals for autumn tea, because they have that natural intensity. Really, even if you buy the autumn tea, you can get at a decent price, and it's still very strong. So there are some areas in autumn I try to only source from those maybe more expensive areas, because they're expensive basically because they have that intensity. And when you get the autumn tea, well, you get a big discount compared to the spring tea, and yet you get still maybe half of that original intensity. And I think it's a very suitable tea for the evening, you see, or as a daily drinker. So just like Lao Banzong, it's very representative of the whole Menghai experience. Maybe it would lack a bit of fragrance. I would say typically Lao Banzong tea has a better fragrance than this. But if you're looking at a tea for the mouthfeel, for the Trachi and the Huigan, this is a really great area. I hope the price won't increase. It's still, you can see that I would think the price is generally well correlated to quality, but with of course diminishing yield. So maybe a tea which is twice better will be 10 times as expensive. But even in Menghai, you know, it's a well-researched area. So if you have a good tea somewhere, but it's not famous, it will still be expensive, because the big tea factories, they don't care about the origin. They just want to buy tea for blends. And if you can provide an intense tea, that will add to the blend and they will pay the price for it. So, yeah, it's not a very big area, and I haven't been there many times, honestly, so I don't have much more to say. So, yeah, are there any last comments I can check? Yes, since 2021 there were no new releases from Pasha on my website. Yeah, I'd like to do Pasha. Yeah, I didn't do it actually. I could have ordered Pasha tea for this autumn, but I got Bacchanoi tea, and I got a couple of other teas. Yeah, I will make sure we get Pasha tea next spring. But it's also because, okay, I have a policy, I think, that I try to abide by, is I don't want to have too many different products on the website. So if the teas from the past years are not sold out from one mountain, I try not to source from that mountain. And we still have cakes of spring 2021 in stock. So I would prefer to give the exposure to other mountains, and maybe on the website have a wider variety of mountains instead of having a lot of references from one mountain. And I have to choose on this. So with this new release of tea, we will have some teas that we've never sourced before for the Black Friday. So that will be in 1 week. And that's why I'm busy during the day writing some tasting notes and stuff. Okay, so thank you for watching, and see you later. I will edit the video and post it on the main YouTube channel. Bye bye.